Welcome, brave souls, to the fire's flickering light, where shadows dance and whispers of the unknown drift on the wind. I'm Sam Hain, your guide through the eerie tales that haunt the darkest corners of your imagination. Tonight, we gather around the flames to uncover stories that will chill your bones, make your heart race, and keep you looking over your shoulder. From ancient legends to ghastly encounters, these tales are not for the faint of heart. So, stoke the fire, lean in close, and prepare yourself for a journey into the realm of the strange and the sinister. Are you ready to be afraid? Let the storytelling begin. The wind whipped around the jagged cliffs of Scotland's northern coast, whispering through desolate ruins of Blackstone Castle. The castle, long abandoned, perched like a sentinel on the edge of the world, its blackened stones worn by time and sea. It was the perfect spot for their Halloween camping trip. 5 friends had gathered here, lured by the promise of an adventure and the thrill of fear. Jack, the leader of the group, stood by the campfire they had built in the castle's crumbling courtyard, feeding sticks into the flames. The others, Mark, Andy, Tom and Harry, sat on logs, clutching their blankets tighter as the temperature dropped with the sinking sun. I still can't believe we're doing this, Harry muttered, his voice carrying a slight tremble. He looked up at the ruined battlements, silhouetted against the dying light. This place gives me the creeps. Jack grinned, his face half lit by the flickering firelight. That's the point. What's Halloween without a few scares? You'll get more than a few out here, Tom said, his tone half joking, half serious. They say this place is haunted. You know, supposedly cursed. People vanish around here, wander into the fog, never seen again. Andy scoffed. You don't actually believe that, do you? Curses? Ghosts? It's just superstition. Mark, usually the quiet one, chimed in. Well, the fog's real enough. Rolls in quick from the sea. If you're not careful, you could lose your way in it. They all fell silent, staring into the fire as night fully descended. The only sounds were the crackle of the flames and the distant roar of the ocean against the rocks. For a moment, the world outside their circle seemed far away. But then the wind shifted. A low, eerie moan echoed through the castle, winding through the broken towers and crumbling walls. The friends exchanged uneasy glances. It's the wind, Jack said, his voice firm. Nothing to worry about. But it didn't feel like nothing. A sense of unease had settled over them, growing heavier as the night deepened. The fire crackled louder, as if in protest, while the shadows around them grew darker, more solid. Let's get on with the stories then, Jack suggested, trying to lighten the mood. Who's first? Tom leaned forward, his face half illuminated, his voice low and serious. I've got one. You ever hear the story of the Black Knight of Blackstone? The others shook their heads, leaning in closer. Tom continued. Legend has it, centuries ago a knight betrayed his king during a siege right here. When the castle fell, the king's men captured him and dragged him in through these very halls. They say his ghost still roams these ruins, waiting for another soul to drag to the underworld. Before anyone could respond, a thick, cold mist began to rise from the ground. It was as though the sea had exhaled, releasing its breath to crawl across the earth. The fog slithered up the cliffs, twirling around the ruined castle walls and pressing inward, swallowing everything beyond the firelight. Mark stood up, squinting. That fog came in fast. Harry, visibly tense now, pulled his blanket tighter. It wasn't there a minute ago. Suddenly, the world outside the campfire seemed to vanish. The ruins, the cliffs, even the distant sound of the ocean, all smothered by the fog. The only thing that remained was the fire, a small circle of warmth and light in an otherwise impenetrable void. Jack's voice broke the silence, though it sounded forced. It's just fog. Happens all the time near the coast. But even he didn't sound convinced. Tom's eyes darted towards the ruins. Did you hear that? Hear what? Andy asked, his voice strained. That scraping sound, like metal. They all strained their ears, the crackle of the fire now deafening in the stillness. Then they heard it, faint, metallic clink, like the dragging of a chain, or a sword across stone. Harry stood abruptly. I don't like this, something's not right. Jack tried to laugh, but it came out hollow. You're just spooked by Tom's story. But no one was laughing anymore. The sound came again, closer this time. Slow, deliberate. The fog shifted, thickening at the edges of the firelight, as if something was moving through it. Mark took a step back. We should go. This place isn't safe. Before anyone could agree or protest, a figure emerged from the fog, tall, dark and barely visible through the mist. Its shape was obscured, but the glint of steel flashed in the firelight. Andy gasped, stumbling back. What? What was that? The figure moved slowly, dragging something heavy behind it. The scraping of metal against stone was now unmistakable, a slow, agonizing sound that set every nerve on edge. It came closer, emerging from the mist, and they could make out the vague outline of armour. A helmet, cracked and ancient, a breastplate, tarnished with age. The Black Knight, Tom whispered, his voice barely audible. The knight's face was hidden beneath the visor, but they could feel its gaze upon them, cold and pitiless. It stood there motionless for a moment, just beyond the fire, as if deciding which of them would be his next victim. Without warning, the knight raised his arm, pointing directly at Jack. His heart pounded in his chest as he felt the weight of that invisible gaze settle on him. His friends stood frozen, paralysed with fear. Then, as if released from a spell, Mark shouted, "Run!" Chaos erupted. They scrambled away from the fire, into the swirling fog, desperate to escape the knight's reach. The fog clung to them, twisting their sense of direction as they stumbled through the ruins. Jack's breath came in ragged gasps as he tripped over a fallen stone, barely catching himself before he hit the ground. The sound of footsteps echoed through the fog, slow, heavy, relentless. The knight was following them. Together, Jack called out, but his voice sounded muffled, swallowed by the mist. He couldn't see the others, only vague shadows darting through the fog. Panic clawed at his chest. The sound of the knight's armour clanged louder now, closer. Then, a scream. Jack froze, his blood turning to ice. It was Harry's voice, sharp and full of terror, cut short as if it had been snuffed out. The fog pressed in around him, thick and suffocating. He couldn't tell where the scream had come from. "Harry!" he shouted, but there was no response. Only heavy, rhythmic sound of metal on stone. Closer, closer. His pulse thundered in his ears. He had to move, had to find others. He stumbled forward blindly, calling out their names, but the fog swallowed every sound. The knight's footsteps grew louder, echoing through the ruins like a death knell. Suddenly the fog parted, and Jack found himself back at the campfire. The flames had dwindled to embers, casting a dim, ghostly glow over the scene. He was alone. His breath came in shallow, ragged bursts as he scanned the darkness. No sign of his friends, no sign of the night, just the thick, oppressive silence. Then, out of the corner of his eyes, he saw it. The Black Knight, standing at the edge of the firelight, motionless once again, its visor lifted, revealing nothing but darkness within. Jack's legs gave out beneath him, and he fell to his knees, trembling. The knight raised its sword, the blade gleaming in the dying light, and stepped forward. And then, just as suddenly as it had appeared, the knight vanished. Swallowed by the fog, the mist rolled back toward the sea, and with it the figure of the Black Knight. The silence that followed was deafening. Jack sat there alone, staring into the dark. The ruins of Blackstone Castle loomed above him, silent and indifferent. The night had returned to normal, but he knew it would never feel normal again. And his friends were gone. Well, brave soul, you survived yet another tale. Or have you? As you close this story, remember that some legends never rest, and perhaps, somewhere, a silent figure in armour waits in the fog. If you enjoyed this chilling adventure, be sure to subscribe and join us by the campfire for more tales that echo from beyond. And who knows, the next time you hear a faint clinking sound, or see mist creeping in unexpectedly, it might just be the Black Knight coming to pay a visit. Until next time, stay close to the light, and whatever you do, don't wander off alone.